Welcome to the Mylers podcast, your cybersecurity news from an analyst and a noob.
I'm Garrett, your analyst.
And I'm Julie, your friendly neighborhood noob.
So let's just dive into the stories this week. The first one is admittedly a little boring. That's why I put it right at the front to get out of the way. The CISA, or the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. CISA released version 2 of their Zero Trust maturity model.
I was such a fan of version 1.
Oh, well, 0.2 incorporates the new Zero Trust strategy that was released January of last year.
Tell me more. What is the Zero Trust strategy?
So Zero Trust, a good way to explain Zero Trust is to kind of highlight the risks of an inherently trusted system like the Toyota RAV4 that we covered last podcast episode, that had a message that was typically sent from the key was actually sent through the headlamp. So that is an example of where that message, as long as it was floating around somewhere in the system, in the car, was trusted.
Too much trust.
Exactly. So the fundamental drivers, as CISA put it in their maturity model of Zero Trust, is never trust, always verify, assume breach, and verify explicitly.
Sounds all good.
So we're talking about things like authentication and encryption, segmentation in the network. So, for example, that message that's typically sent from the key to unlock the engine immobilizer, should that ever come from the headlamp plug?
Probably not. No.
In fact, that whole maybe sub network within the car, does that message come from that sub network at all? Do any messages typically go to the immobilizer from that sub network? So that's where segmentation comes into play.
Great.
Anyways, these images, these graphics I pulled from the maturity model, the CISA maturity model, as well as a couple other documents like the DoD reference architecture, and the DoD Chief Information Officer released their document. And they all kind of go back to this Zero Trust strategy that has 7 pillars. Mm-hmm. But actually, sometimes they're called 5 pillars and 3 underlying principles. So
I can't do math very well. It's
okay. Sorry. No, it was actually, yeah, it is like 5 pillars. And anyways, yeah. And sometimes they call it users, sometimes they call it identity. So it's typical government.
Whatever sauce you want to use.
Yeah,
your own flair.
They all like to put their little flair to it, but they're all kind of talking about the same thing. So that's what those pictures are.
Awesome. I'm a fan now, right? Model 2.
You like the 2.0? Okay.
2.0.
This next story is in here just because I think it's silly, but I think there's a point to be made. The Denver FBI office released this warning or alert on their Twitter about juice jacking.
Juice jacking.
Yeah.
Please tell me more. I need to know.
Juice jacking, the idea is when you use a public charge station that you might find at like an airport or something.
Okay, right.
You plug in your phone or tablet to charge, and you don't just get a charge, you get malware, basically. Oh. The problem is
it's not a bonus.
No. The problem is that there's no evidence of this actually occurring.
Oh.
So
okay, let's talk about it some more, shall we?
So it's kind of irrelevant. So this Electronic Frontier Foundation article rightfully says to be skeptical of this messaging from the FBI because it talks about the history of how it kind of goes back to this 2011 DEF CON presentation that talked about a USB vulnerability. And then it kind of, that was, mobile security has changed a lot in over a decade. And then I guess the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office warned about it, but again, never cited it actually happening. And then the FCC warned about it that same year. And then now the Denver FBI is talking about it. And it doesn't, if it is happening, it certainly isn't happening at like a scale that would be of concern. You know what I mean? Like I haven't been able to find one incident of it actually happening.
So then why would the Denver FBI be sharing an article or a tweet about it?
That's a good question, and that's not something that the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, really touches on in their article. And I think it's all about clout chasing. I think just like
Wow.
everybody else, the FBI and other people in InfoSec, whether it be on LinkedIn or Twitter, are sharing things and talking about stuff just to that drives attention, that gets eyeballs, that gets engagement, right?
Yes.
Content. And that's why I kind of put these two tweets from Denver FBI's office side by side, both from this month. But the one on the right shows their typical engagement from a typical tweet of theirs. But the one about juice jacking gets like hundreds times more likes, retweets, and impressions.
Yeah, that's quite a difference.
And so I think they're just they put it out there, not necessarily because it's a relevant risk. And I like this EFF quote from the article. Their article, it says, "Realistic security is about risk management, and for most people, the risk of a public USB charger is very low." So it's not impossible. It is maybe something you can do, especially if you have sensitive stuff you're using it for work, your phone or your tablet or your laptop for work. Maybe be extra cautious. Bring your own battery pack, but it's just not that relevant. And this other tweet from the Denver FBI office that got one comment and 7 retweets and 18 likes is much more relevant. It's talking about locking down your mobile payment apps that you use using two-factor authentication and strong passwords.
Stuff that probably happens every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this next story is in because I feel obligated to put it in. It's been dominating the news, and I'm kind of bored of it already. But this 21-year-old guy in the Massachusetts Air National Guard, he works in cyber transport, and he was part of this private Discord channel or Discord group, and he apparently shared a bunch of classified documents. Like one source said hundreds of classified documents, and it looks like he just did it to show off to his friends. Yeah.
Attention.
More clout chasing. So yeah, and a lot of sensitive information about the war in Ukraine. And it really is, I mean, it's classified because it does real harm and damage when it gets into the hands of our enemies. One of the documents was actually, I think it was discovered because one of the documents had been doctored by Russia. It was being shared on other platforms. And they doctored it to show greater Ukrainian losses and less Russian losses. So, but what kind of bugs me about this story is the lesson apparently that the intelligence community is taking away from this story, because as this NBC News article highlights, they're suggesting that what they need to do is better monitor the internet and chat rooms for leaked documents, because apparently he's been sharing it since like January, but
that's embarrassing.
But it's a private group, right? So you should. I get if it's on a public platform or a public group, then you should maybe catch it. But I'm just skeptical. I'm an advocate for privacy, and in the past we've had politicians kind of trying to go after end-to-end encryption that is used in tools like Signal or WhatsApp. Yeah, and I think that you should do proactive measures instead of reactive measures of once it's already leaked, finding it and trying to get ahead of the damage. I think you would prefer to do proactive measures like asking whether or not he needed access to all that classified information about the war in Ukraine. The cyber transport guy, he's kind of maintaining the IT infrastructure. Does he really need access to that much access, at least to classified information? No. Or could you have been monitoring his usage and been like, why is he looking at these these CIA articles about the war?
100 articles.
right.
What's he doing?
Yeah, it's not relevant to his job. And that's actually a cybersecurity principle called the principle of least privilege, or the
Okay.
principle of least functionality is usually attributed to like devices.
It already has a name. Let's apply it here. Come on, guys.
Exactly. You gotta love that selfie. That it
Oh, yeah.
guaranteed that I'm almost certain that selfie was taken at Keesler Air Force Base during
We
his
would
tech
know,
school.
yeah.
We were stationed there, and that looks like a tech school wall locker if I've ever seen one.
And you have.
So this next story comes out of Israel. Kind of got to give a history lesson here. Since 2013, every year in April, these anonymous hacktivists are just trying to hack anything and everything they can from Israel.
Sounds like a horrible strategy.
Yeah.
Here it comes again, another April.
Which is actually funny. The farmers in the Jordan Valley, their irrigation systems were attacked.
That's not...
And what's funny is days before the attack, they were warned of potential attacks coming. And some of them turned off their like remote access capabilities and things like that, unplugged their control networks from the internet.
Smart.
But others didn't, and so I guess some were impacted. The good news is that it sounds like it was mostly just the way the Jerusalem Post words it. It seems like it was mostly just the monitoring of the irrigation system, not necessarily the control wasn't manipulated. Just the monitoring was disabled or disrupted. So, because you can imagine a lot more damage could be done especially if you kind of do it in a tricky way where the monitoring system thinks that the water's off, but it's actually on. If you like waste a bunch of water and possibly flood the crops and destroy the crops, doesn't sound like that happened. Just more of a monitoring system that was disrupted. But these anonymous hackers been doing this, like I said, since 2013, and they went after in 2013. They went after the Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum. It's like,
why?
Because they're anti-Semitic. Yeah, like what type of
Why exactly?
But be more constructive with your feedback. Even worse, and more recently, they went after this group called United Hatzalah. It's like this non-profit volunteer organization that tries to basically get there before traditional ambulances can. They use these like scooters to like when there's in a city, if there's traffic that delays the traditional ambulance, they can go a little faster and get there and perform life-saving measures. And this I mean, these volunteers they include women, non-Jews. It's a very like
awesome, progressive and helpful.
Wholesome,
unproblematic company.
And these stupid anonymous hackers are like think they're the good guys by going after.
Got him.
Got him.
Not a good way to get people. I mean, we can have a legitimate debate about the settlements in the West Bank without going after people trying to save lives. Right? A volunteer nonprofit organization trying to save lives. Like you're not attracting people to your cause, I don't think. No. And I put this particular tweet up here because I thought it was funny. This guy LARPing in his mom's basement with his Guy Fawkes mask with the hashtag Op Israel. That's what they call it, I guess, every year. Hashtag Op Israel. What I thought was funny is he put his, the little Iranian flag there for the cause, but he's wearing this hoodie, his black hacker hoodie. You can see on the logo, it comes from Waterton Lakes, which is like this fancy vacation area in Alberta, Canada. So
what a hacker.
I am almost certain that he's like this wealthy kid from the United States or Canada and he decided to wear the hoodie that his dad got him from the Prince of Wales hotel gift shop.
It's the only black hoodie he has.
I guess so. But anyways, that sums up our cybersecurity news. Let's move on to the Beyond the Scope segment where we get to talk about whatever you've got on your mind.
Well, just recently, I just saw something about the Kardashians.
Oh, how many cybersecurity podcasts do you get to hear about the Kardashians about?
Well, as a longtime fan, I do follow them a little bit. But just recently, they were seen at Disneyland again, Chloe with a couple of the kids.
Yeah, they've gone before, right?
Yeah, they go all the time. They love it. But every time they go, what happens? Do you remember what happens time.
Well, I think they
spot at
usually
Disneyland.
rent out the whole park to themselves or something like that, don't they? They get the exclusive package.
Kind of, yeah. Well, what happens is we get all these videos of people taking videos of them as they're in line, the people in line, watching the Kardashians just walk past the line, go right on an empty ride, then ride it alone, and then get off and go about their day.
The nerve.
The nerve. And how upsetting it is to see that happen when, and I know,
The pearl clutching.
right? When
You're you're in a line for like an hour and a half or something like that, and you get upset because someone famous cuts in front of you for like 2 minutes.
And what's funny is this has even happened to me once, but it wasn't a celebrity. It was just some people got to cut in front of the line, and they had an employee with them. And that's when I first learned about these VIP tours that Disneyland provides.
Yeah, so it's not something exclusive that the Kardashians demand from Disney.
No.
It's a service that they offer
that
to
they're
whoever
paying
is willing to pay for it.
Right. And so they're paying extra to get a VIP tour of Disneyland, as they have every right to, and as I think they should with their extra security, that they have to worry about. And yet here we are all on the internet complaining about this minor inconvenience.
First world problems.
First world problems. Hashtag first world problems.
It's like getting upset at the people that are in first class on a plane.
Yeah, how dare
it's a privilege that they pay for. It's more comfortable. They get perks.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd do it if you could as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How many people that are complaining and acting like this is such an offensive thing that they did would do the exact same thing?
Would also be TikToking themselves, being like VIP tour. You know what I mean? Like the same thing. But that's just my little touch in my celebrity gossip news.
So everyone just relax, recognize that
there's people that are dying.
There's going to be people that are wealthier than you that pay for some perks that you can't.
Welcome to the world. This is what it's like.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of the Cyber Milers podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe, and hope to see you guys next week.
Thanks. Bye.